Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Prime Live. I'm Shaheen Umar and today we have Roshni Parbhoo-Seetha, who is a dedicated project manager at SADAG, and she will be joining us to discuss teen suicide prevention webinar hosted earlier today. As a mental health expert, Roshni has been working tirelessly to raise awareness and support for those struggling with depression, anxiety and other mental health issues, particularly in teens. Assalamu alaikum and welcome. Welcome, Roshni. Hi, how are you doing, Roshni? It's great to have you on the show today.
I'm well, thank you so much for having me.
We just had a bit of a connection issue there, so we can hear each other much better now. Thank you so much. Awesome. So tell us, it's great to have such a person with such an awareness in teen suicide. What motivated SADAG to organize a teen suicide webinar, prevention webinar, and what's the main aim that it's aimed to achieve?
So the South African Depression and Anxiety Group celebrates or commemorates Teen Suicide Prevention Week every single year. It's part of our mental health calendar. And teen suicide is a growing concern in South Africa. And SADAG has seen an increase in the distress calls from young people struggling with depression and anxiety and overwhelming pressures. So our goal with the webinar is to raise awareness, to provide education, and to equip parents and teachers and teens with practical tools to recognize the warning signs and seek help. So we're hoping that by fostering these open conversations and providing that expert guidance that we aim to break that stigma that is so often surrounded around mental health.
I understand, of course, and that's the main thing. Obviously, parents and caregivers should obviously be aware and of such behaviors amongst their children. So, can you share with us some warning signs that parents and caregivers should be aware of to prevent such events from happening?
Absolutely. You need to look out for things like changes in their behavior. So if, for example, your child is withdrawing from friends and family, if they have a loss in interest in activities that they once enjoyed. So let's say your son loved playing soccer and suddenly would not even want to see a soccer field anymore and is not doing that for 2 weeks or longer. That's a change in their behavior. But also it has to be a complete change in their behavior. So if he never liked soccer and he still doesn't like soccer, that's normal. But if he loved soccer and he's not doing it anymore, look out for those changes in their behavior. If they're eating too much or eating too little, sleeping too much or sleeping too little. But also look out for signs of emotional distress. So like frequent mood swings, extreme sadness, or feelings of hopelessness. Sometimes our kids talk about death or suicide and they say things like, I don't want to be here anymore, or indirect signs of things such as writing or drawing about death. So look out for those signs. And often parents don't always know what to look out for. And that's where the South African Depression and Anxiety Group and the counselors at the call center come in. Give us a call and we can talk you through that and see if maybe that is a sign that you need to be worried about.
I would agree, because then parents and caregivers are not also so attentive due to work and all of these things, pressure coming, so they don't actually see their children often. And to tell those behavior issues, some may be thinking, oh, because they're a teenager, they're going through this phase or something. It's just a phase, get over it. And that's the main thing they usually say. So it's very great that you guys have this operation going on, because it's to tell what's happening, what's actually happening within the household if a kid is actually depressed or something. And this actually drives a kid to take such drastic measures, because that could be the only way out for them. And it could be something so small or something so big, so we shouldn't even look past that, I would say. So in your opinion, what support and resources do the teens and young adults need to cope with mental health issues? Sorry.
There's so many things and there's so many resources that are available. And our teens these days, it's not as simple as just saying, okay, talk to someone. There's different things that they can do. There's things like mindfulness and thinking about things. There's exercise and there's journaling. There's peer support groups. There's digital resources such as online therapy. There's so many different things, because one thing doesn't just work for one person. And that's what's so important to remember. And that's why our counselors will spend time speaking to the teens about what they are feeling and why they are feeling that way. because we need to streamline what will actually work for you. And so mental health awareness campaigns, such as the ones that we have and the ones that we are having on social media for Teen Suicide Prevention Week this year, is to help reach teens in those spaces. And our social media campaigns this year, someone asked us recently, why are we focusing so much on social media this year? And that's because that's where we're finding the teens, on social media. But there's so many different things that are available to them. There are school-based mental health programs. There are youth-friendly programs in community settings. There's psychologists, there's counselors, there's support groups. But we need to figure out what works for that specific situations. Again, this morning when we were speaking on the webinar, we said that no one teen has just one problem. There's so many different things, and it all comes in layers. It's not just family issues. It could be family issues, but what has now created those family issues? It could be financial problems. And so then that's the second layer. And what created those financial problems? It was unemployment. And that's the third layer. And there's so much of peeling that needs to be done. And it's almost like an onion. You have to keep peeling it. And with each layer you peel, there's more crying that goes on. And that's part of the therapy. And so we have to figure out what therapy is going to work best for you. So there are resources. That's what I need to say in a nutshell, is that there are resources, but what works for you may not work for another person. We just need to streamline what will work for you and find that.
So I was saying, obviously, with the kids, obviously, it may not be something at home. It may be something in school or something. Maybe the kid is getting bullied, doesn't want to talk about it, and maybe sees, okay, he can deal with it himself. And even though maybe it's not that as well, some kids are naturally not don't want to be around other kids, or and maybe the parents will look at it like, no, my kid is not well with others, so don't bother, it's nothing. But then it's a deeper meaning to it, so it goes so much more into it. And that's mainly what you guys are out here to do, is to look at these type of things as well. And how can we as a society actually... Yes, 100%, obviously. So how can we as a society reduce the stigma surrounding mental health and encourage teens to seek help when they actually need it, and not go seek other help, which is obviously drugs and other things like that?
I think the most important thing is we need to normalize those conversations, the way we speak about mental health in our schools, our homes, our workplaces, and that is changing. I mean, SADAG has existed for 30 years last year. We're in our 31st year this year, and we've seen that change, where people are speaking a lot more about mental health and mental illness, and seeing mental illness as a real illness. We often say to kids that if someone came in here with cancer, would you treat them differently? Would you look after them, or would you make fun of them? And they say, no, we'd look after them. And then if you ask them, if someone came in here and said, I want to take my life, would you look after them, or would you make fun of them? And they'd say, well, we make fun of them because he's looking for attention. He wants us to run after him. And the whole point of our teen suicide shouldn't be a secret school project, is to make kids understand that depression that child is going through is causing him to feel suicidal. And depression is a real illness. So just like you would treat someone with cancer with love and care, you need to do the same thing with someone who has depression. And so we need to normalize those conversations. And the way to do that is to educate those communities. We need to teach people. We need to make them recognize mental health and make them understand that it needs to be just as important as physical health is. I mean, if we are dieting and exercising to look after our physical health, we need to do the same for our mental health. But we also need to encourage positive role models, so when influencers and educators and parents openly discuss their struggles, it empowers teens to do the same. And so, I think that's what we need to do to change the way we see mental illness.
No, I agree 100%, because you'll never actually truly know until also somebody's actually done it. Then you'll wonder why, like how or something. I mean, I had a friend once who was also, at the time he was about 26 years old, but not a teen, of course. But you'd never say he would do what he done, So it really goes deep like that. So to think of what you guys are doing, it brings a big thing into the picture for society to look at, because in all, I would tell you, if I had to show you the person, you'd even say, no, how could he have did what he did? And you'd wonder how, why, and what was the actual cause? What was he going through mentally? What was the bigger picture? What did he go through? So it raises a lot of questions, and you've provided valuable insights and guidance for this. How can we help prevent teen suicide and support mental health among our youth? As we conclude our discussion, could you share your thoughts on how we can sustain the conversation around mental health and ensure that the teens continue to have the support that they actually need, and not drive themselves also later on in life, I would say, because something can happen now and then it can actually trigger you again later on. And if they don't get the treatment now, I would say it can actually break down much more when bottling up these type of situations.
So I think sustaining the conversation requires ongoing education, ongoing advocacy, community engagement. I think is the most important one, where the whole community gets involved and says, okay, this is a real issue and we need to support it. We need to make sure this stops happening, But I think we also need to move beyond that awareness. We need to now action the support. And that means talking about mental health in schools by integrating it into the curriculums, not just, okay, it's LO, we're getting SADAG to come in, getting it into the curriculums, talking about mental illness and why it's so important, talking about different disorders like bipolar mood disorder and schizophrenia, because a lot more families are going through it nowadays. But I think parents and teachers and caregivers, they need to receive that ongoing training on how to support teens effectively. I mean, we go into schools so often. That's what my project actually is. And parents and teachers say to us, we are not trained. We are not adequately trained to understand how to help these kids. We are not psychologists. We are not school counselors. And so they do need that training. But I think we must continue to empower these young people and empower them to speak up and to support one another. They need to support one another without shaming each other. There's so much bullying that goes on. And I think when it comes to mental illness, that bullying just gets worse. And so I think by saying to them, don't shame each other, don't judge each other, realize that it's a real illness. And this person really just, this new saying that has recently come up, just be kind. It honestly is that simple. Just be kind, because you don't know what that. We get up to 1,500 to 2,500 calls a day, and if you think about it, if I ask you, like, do you have a friend, if you are feeling really depressed today, how many friends do you have to reach out to? I'm sure you can give me a number, even if that number is also just one. But if you actually think about it, there are between 1,500 and 2,500 people every single day that have no one to speak to, and SAG is their only lifeline. They would much rather reach out to a stranger than speak to somebody else or speak to someone that they know. And that's where I think us as a community, we need to just do a bit better and be kinder and be more supportive. So yeah, that's what I have to.
No, I would agree 100%, because also when you said bullying as well, it also brought something to my mind to think that if they are getting bullied, so like when the kids get bullied, obviously they can be a pretty person, a handsome person as well. It doesn't matter how they look as well, because then someone can be shamed for what they have already and then think they have something else. So I would say that type of person doesn't actually necessarily take it up with their family and things like that. They won't actually speak out if someone body shamed them or something obviously of that sort. So with you guys actually around, these people actually need to take away that you guys are out there to help. I would say I would agree that people would love to actually speak more to a stranger rather than their relatives for help, because they're scared of how it would look upon based upon like what do you call it? They just basically trying to hold their ego basically and not let themselves get out there. Reputation. Yes. So it's all about reputation at the end of the day, and having that mind about, okay, what what they think is better. So like I thank you so much for having this conversation with us. with that being said, thank you so much for having us today, guys. That was Roshni Parbhoo-Seetha, and I'm Shane Umar. We will be heading on to an ad break. Thank you so much.